Jackie.
Careful. I'm sure you realize that tying the baby is a highly symbolic act. If you tie too tightly, you deprive the child of his emotional freedom.
Oh, my.
But tie too loosely, and you deny him the firmness of your love.
Yikes.
Either way, the damage could be irreparable.
All right. So, this is a video on raising children. And as Lipschitz just emphasized, it is a delicate balance. It's a comedic effect. You don't want to hold on too tight. You don't want to be too stern, too demanding, too micromanage your child too much. And you also don't want to be lackadaisical and allow them to either walk all over you or go in a direction that is far flung for the sake of pushing the envelope or and in some cases said child might harm somebody, and usually themselves. So it's like anything in life. I don't really play baseball anymore. If I were to play, though, I recall many aspects of it, and one aspect is if you're going to throw the ball well, you don't want to have too tight of a grip, nor do you want to have too loose of a grip. And this brings us to what we find in public school education. When I was young, this could have been my mom, this could have been the culture I was surrounded in, but if I recall correctly, the first Harry Potter came out in 96 or 97, and I was born in 93, so I think I was in first or second grade, 7 or 8, yet the year 2000, 2001, when my mom introduced me to Harry Potter, and we read it page for page. I didn't need her to read with me, but it was like a mother-son activity when I was that age, and I mean, it's a fairly vivid fantasy world, but there's this grim darkness pall hanging over it. And there's also overt symbolism that I was not aware of, for I had only heard of the Bible but had not read it, and may have been able to tell you at that point in my life that people talked about it as being antiquated. That was usually how it was framed in my reference, and I don't. It's the word in some ways. I mean, it's been rigged. There's parts of it that clearly have juice, or they feel genuine, and they stir your heartstrings, and that was largely ignored in my childhood. Now, some of you went to church, but even then you're getting the 501c3 version, and you're going to school, so you're seeing a lot of this stuff anyways. And what came up at school, I remember specifically, it was this book was being banned at certain libraries around the U.S., and not in our town, but it was talked about. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, it's just fantasy. Like, how can people ban this book? And it's because of the overt satanic symbolism. Harry Potter has a lightning bolt scar, the trifold alchemical, the Elder Wand, the Sorcerer's Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak, representative of alchemy and this third, being or third entity, so to speak. And yeah, government schools' agenda to destroy religious morals and spirituality. So Harry Potter being about wizards and witches, magic is interesting, but to do so secretly, the whole series, it feels like Harry in some way is being hid. And it's Harry Potter, like think of the word play, like someone who forms clay, the potter, Harry Potter. It makes me feel like someone who's molding a child, a story, a magical tale to weave perhaps traps in children's minds, or this sort of strange darkness about the world that need not exist. And I think that's what I want to angle on more, is because that's what I felt in a lot of the music that I grew up on too. It was like this darkness that I had empathy for and could relate to, but it was too resolute. It was too much of it. And I could never get completely into these things. I could never had like posters of these things on my walls or was like emphatic about them. I enjoyed many aspects of them, but I even like things like James and the Giant Peach, books like that. They have this just like the is it the aunts that are watching over him. They're so mean, and there's always this. I mean, it feels like so many of these stories, and now knowing they're written by people that may indeed or are likely in a satanic cult. Um, yeah, that would be very purposeful to include a regular plot device where the antagonists are overt in their regular vain vain janglings, right? Like that's really what it is. I think of Gruntilda, I think of Voldemort in this. I mean, it's he who shall not be named, this idea of Satan and whatever. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, I don't get the whole extent of it, but why Baal and Satan aren't essentially the same thing. How it's just, I think basically what it is Satan has, there's a million words for that. Satan means opposer. And this stuff goes in great contrast to, stark contrast to unity. And it's from the outset, it's made to be nonchalant in this series. Like you didn't think anything of it. Oh, there's people that aren't magical, and there's people that are magical, and there's an even like a third one where I think it's a squib where they're of a magical family but they can't do magic, right? So with that, I mean, it's kind of interesting. So if you're somebody who's born into a family that knows about all these lies and this satanic cult, and it happens to be inverted, or I shouldn't say inverted, but trans, maybe that's the help, that's the or androgyne. Um, are they, and you're in their family? Are you considered a squib? No, I think that you're considered a muggle. And in this book, muggles they're basically outcasts. They don't delve deep into any muggles, if I recall correct. In these books, if I recall correctly, they're almost purely in this wizarding world, and there's something that's deeply deep about that. And the Bible echoes these things, and the Bible doesn't echo these things. Harry Potter echoes the Bible in this kind of weird, strange, reverse interpretation of it in a sense, because it is secretive. The whole world is secretive. When Jesus promises that anybody can indeed be saved and be of God if they know and do as is righteous and true. I mean, it happened to rhyme, but didn't plan that. But and this is running in stark opposition to it. But I was used to this. And this actually, I think at Fight Club, I made art about all these things, all these media pieces they put out, and just to make it's literally to make, it's like a strange retardation soup that they put us through, and you don't have to pay attention to it, but it also echoes reality in many ways, and it's satanic. It's making people like love these things. I never loved Harry Potter. I just thought at some points it was interesting. There were intriguing aspects to it. And yeah, when they veered into the dark stuff, I wanted to put the book down because it just wasn't. It felt like it wasn't that engaging, and yeah, it was manipulative of the mind in many ways, and that's how it works. It's a spell. It's a long-winded spell, and it often was um, championed. And I do wonder, like, are these children actually reading these books? Or are they told that, hey, these are pretty messed up. Just let the Muggles read them, so to speak. I have to wonder about those kinds of things. But no, I think that they revel in this stuff and they love the idea of having a secret club in it. It's lame. And then, yeah, back here, to go back to the image, you've got the Big Bang idea, the globe everywhere. The star of Remphan, David, of course, on the child. Evolution, how nonsensical idea that we come from apes, monkeys, and all this. And this stuff is rammed down our throats. And not to mention the militaristic seating that was present in many people's schools. You're sitting at a desk behind another student, maybe there's like 5 of you in a row, and so forth. It felt robotic, and I hated it. And I, I, when I was really young, I think I had a lot of excitement just because I was around friends. But then when I figured out what school was, I knew it was this militaristic, evil place. And I think my elementary school years, I was somewhat shrouded in the mystery of it all and just too young to really understand the depths of the evil. But I was able to cast it aside and um, really carve out time and space to have a good time and be okay. But then became very obvious, and then there were evil things going on in elementary school. I've addressed that, but in middle school, things became obvious. The hand signs, the best friend I had that completely went about face, just turned the other direction, and was no longer my close compadre, my close mate. It hurt, and I didn't have answers for this, and part of it I knew deep down, even at that stage, I knew part of it was just due to this obscure socialization technique done by when I had the adults in charge, right? That's what you assume until you know about masonry and you notice these symbols popping up everywhere, and they don't really hide it, they just obscure somewhat. And once you know, it's anger, it's frustrating, it fills you with rage. And thus far, in being alert of all these things, my answer is to speak honestly as best I can. But I have made mistakes. I have had lapses. I have said at times, "Oh, this is a battle it's not worth fighting right now." Where I can save my energy and put my energy towards something more better than having to prove to somebody that's already defiantly against and in the club, so to speak, the basic ideas of us living on a plane and so forth. I mean, these things are all really simple, but this is the line they hold. This is what they do. Like, they treat us like we're children. They're taught to do that because guess what? They are. And it's like being trapped in the puer aeternus or being trapped in the child. You don't, once you're an adult and you work on your life, I think at some point you recognize and you realize that the optimal way of being is to fluctuate between the various forms of ourselves, so to speak. I'm not saying literally being a shapeshifter. No, that's not what I mean whatsoever. Maybe forms is a poor choice of word. But rather the the interpretations in our perceptions and our creations and our place in the world ought to be shifting frequently. There's this great song by the Knot Twist called Pilot, I believe, and it has a lyric in it I always reference where it says everyone ought to be pilot at least once a day. And when I heard that lyric, I knew it was right. I know I've always felt this, and it's true. We all have amazing skills, and we can be the leader in some capacity every day for, I think, in a village, I setting ideal, a group of people, family, friends, otherwise, we all ought to have faith enough in each other that we allot each other that, and not just say one person. That's why, I mean, other than Jesus or just this idea of savior or truth, Jesus translates to savior. Um, nobody ought to be up there held up, Pharaoh, all that. There's none of that makes any sense. But I suppose the whole lesson is, or one aspect of the lesson, the whole lesson is our lives, but the one aspect of the lesson is that they get physical, material gain, wealth, but it's nothing compared to spiritual strength and seeing God's creation and not being swayed by nonsense like a fancy home when it's cold on the inside, or feeling like you need to steal a candy bar when deep down you know that these candy bars they sell you in Babylon are poison, pretty much slow poison, but poison nonetheless. And that's kind of the weird thing about food, but we won't get on that topic right now. But anything else in this image we want to discuss? I don't want to go too deep into Harry Pothead, but yeah, it was probably one of the most, in my generation, like the most talked about book. I can't think of any other series that was more talked about than that. Nothing really comes close. Series of unfortunate events. I mean, does that sound very optimistic and positive? So that's kind of it. It's a death cult. So they're gonna put negative media out there. Dark Death Eaters is the Death Eaters are the group. The like his like Jesus has his disciples. Voldemort has the Death Eaters. And it's just they constantly have to instill this feeling of peril or imminent doom, and you don't have to live like that. I've never liked horror movies. Everybody draws a line, right? There's like everything out there pretty much in terms of their like crazy world stuff that's just superficially it's bad, but it's superficially bad in the sense that it's like it's not gonna like overtly sexual or gory or violent. It's something that is just a blatant lie that they perpetuate. There's that kind of thing, which it's there are educational moments in these books and shows and things, but it's like they have to massage you or give you the sweetness to give you the poison, sugar for the pill, so to speak, and their pill is really bad, and you got to get off of it best you can. Completely, ultimately. And then this is an interesting part. So I got this image from NextWex. If you guys, he posts some interesting stuff. I gotta say, like, I'm kind of surprised at this person. I shouldn't be, but because we all have the capacity to do great things, but because they post a lot of like highly like what's the word? The fidelity's good on their videos. They have good editing and such. So yeah, obviously they're a good, smart person. But some part makes me think that like it's part of a group. I don't know. Maybe I'm paranoid. Sorry. But they said here, anyways, dog cult is heavily promoted. Dogs in general are dangerous to little children, especially big bully breed dogs. Long story, I may do a video about it. And I can attest to this. I think this is interesting. This is an interesting aspect. I will say that there's this push to be like a hero to raise a dog in a good way, but it's also like a kind of a frame of reference thing. Like I think we can get along with any animal no matter what if we're conscientious and not eating animals, because any animal can sense if you're eating animals, and if you don't eat animals and say you're bigger than a dog and you're going to be calm around the dog's going to be calm around you and kind of be like, I don't really want to eat you, but I'm going to look at you, so long as they're not primed to. Like there's people that prime their dogs for violence, so that's something to consider too. But moving on, this is an image I made from my comic years ago called Coloropolis. Before I knew the depth of the evil, maybe subconsciously some of the stuff came out anyway. But here you have that Chrysalis camp, so yeah, the alliterative, right? And that pissed me off to know the 33 thing, because yeah, kaka alliterative things sound nice. And there's, I mean, any alliterative thing it sounds nice. It's a rhyming, alliteration. All these things are made note of for a reason, because they create a kind of sing-songy, rhythmic flow to them that people can enjoy and it's more memorable. So here, what I wanted to reference is like, okay, so of course you got like the caterpillar-esque roof, and you have the crystalline window, but it could be like a dewdrop, and then you have the pineal, of course, because I'm primed at this time. I'm not aware of any of these things going. The pineal gland, sort of pine cone. You see pine cones outside of many homes, and you know what they're referencing. If they're evil, like that's this. I hate saying sodomy, but it very well it probably is a reference to. I practice this so as to get to a higher, but that this just doesn't. It's like some great deceit that Satan puts on them, and then they get baggy eyes and gross and bad health problems because you shouldn't be doing that stuff. But it's their religion, so. And then our little like it's probably like a dress. I think I imagine this as a person dressed as a cat, of course. But he's got kind of a devilish tail. It's kind of weird. And he's pointing away and he's saying like, "Don't go here." And this is me before everything. I hated school growing up. I mean, I did well in school, but I hated it, and I could have done better in school had I not had I like put aside my absolute disgust with it. Okay, because if you want, okay, let's break it down. I don't have slides for this, but this is simple stuff, right? So we have the basic subjects. Social studies history, I find as the glaring, obvious waste of time, nothing to be learned there. Everything they taught us was manipulated Freemasonic bullshit. It, it was not like there's such few carrots of truth that it's amazing. We had to write papers about this crap. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. That brings up a little interesting point, a little side note tangent. On YouTube, have you guys noticed that they added numbers to the people's accounts at the end of them? Mine is 1492, so it tells any of these people, oh, this is somebody discovering America. Get it? Um, so it's freaking ridiculous. So, anyways, though, social studies was a complete waste of time. I always felt this deep down, and we did the little Hoplon performance as the Spartans 300. We all made crests and shields, and that was the artistic project was one of my most memorable history class moments. I remember also I was in the John Brown. I was in a John Brown like class play, but it was just inside of a class. It wasn't like we went to the stage or anything like that. So imagine like 20-25 children, eighth graders, and they're in the room, and we're talking about John Brown, some fantastical some fantastical character who supposedly protected the colored. That's the terrible. That's the worst one. Sorry, I apologize. The black people, but that's just me being an idiot. But that time that's how they referred to it in the books and texts. They even referred to it as Negroes and evil, more ridiculous stuff. It's just such a repugnant, disgusting narrative that puts you in a bad state of mind that you would never naturally be in. I would never even think twice. Any person I saw, I would be ready, primed. I mean, if there's evil ones with slit eyes and strange behavior, that's something. But color wise, I'm not thinking about that at all. And they put that shit in your brain. History is detrimental. It's not just nothing. It's not just an air waste of time. Holocaust is heavily taught in American schools, as far as I know. It's still to this day. They want that ingrained in your mind. This horrific, disgusting, gave me nightmares. I guarantee. I don't know. I definitely know. 100%. I have a distinctive nightmare. One distinctive nightmare. I probably had others, but there's one distinctive one I'll relay right now, which was in the dream. I woke up and I'm sitting in a barrack. And the barrack is like a baseball dugout, and it's probably, I don't know, 40 people long, and we're in shabby clothes. It's me and a bunch of like, what do you want to call them, dream folk, people that don't have strong tangible features, but they're there. And I'm looking around and I see that there's two guards and they have more defined features because I'm looking towards them. The people next to me, I'm like looking down. We're all sitting there. We're forced to be there. These guards doing their rounds, going back and forth, and they're in not particularly Nazi attire. I think it was just like black and white, perhaps. Maybe that's more symbolic of the true evil that's going on here. Um, Interesting that comes up now, but yeah, I think it was black and white, and they're doing their rounds, and I look around at the guys. And I'm like, let's just run for it. Like, this is ridiculous. Why are we going to sit here and let them police us? There's two of them. There's 40 of us. So I start running, and no one else moves, and I'm running and running through, and it happens to be a winter day, and the air is brittle and cold, and there's squirrels skittering about in the arbors, and raccoons ducking beneath logs and such because of the wrote the disgusting, it's not human, it's not, or whatever you want to, it's not good people activity, it's evil people activity going on. Because everybody can feel those vibrations anywhere you are. And I recall vividly, this is one of those dying dreams. I was running and running. I was ducking between, dodging bullets, going between, trees, and their bullets were ricocheting off the bark. And then one time they got me, and I saw the blood in front of me in the snow, and then I woke up before I fell. And I have no doubt that this school bullshit prison system is what brought that dream into fruition, and it was not fun to have that dream. So yes, school is not a good thing. Do not send your child to public school. It is pure evil. If not only for history, you've only delved into one subject. Don't forget, we got science and the fake dinosaurs, fake planet stuff that they push on you, generally in the younger years, and they give up on dinosaurs, and they'll keep the astronomy around, but it's just fluff, really. It's just numerical, ridiculous fluff. Like, they just throw numbers out there that mean nothing a lot of the time, and trying to measure light. It's ridiculous. When you look at the starry skies, you know that anything they show you on NASA or these supposed like high scientist sites is just art or flat out fabrications. And they just delude you with these ridiculous visions of grandeur that are in reality gross. And it's a weird thing because humanity is sensitive, and to survive in this strange Baphomet experience, I mean, man, this is crazy. But moving on with science, yeah. I mean, there's physics, there's many sciences that I feel like there are true, genuine. Obviously, there's much to be learned there. This is a step above history, for certain. When history, you're really given nothing. If we were given true history, that's another thing completely. But I don't think we're given much, if any, of that. Really, it's like we have, for instance, in America, like it seems, a certain town, most of the New England, for instance, is established well before much of the rest of the country. But like, what does that even mean? And when it's this about this Freemasonry stuff, it's like, how can you take any of that seriously? So, and honestly, it's irrelevant. And the sciences that they miss out on, that they don't teach you, to move on from the history that they should teach us, the sciences they should teach us are things like gardening, how to grow plants very well, what plants do what, how do they do it, what they relate to, how they match anatomical features, and they reflect what their form reflects what they'll heal in the body, often, if not always, if you're a keen enough observer. And I'm mixed. I'm still learning, but I know this to be true. I have a lot going on in my life, but that's no excuse. Plants are the answer to so many of our ailments and to getting off of big pharma. I mean, really, it's learning how to use them, grow with them, everything about them, spread the seeds. There's beautiful tales out there like Johnny Appleseed, and we can be those people. Or, there's multifaceted Jesus or just truth-minded people out there that are spreading this good stuff. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't know, I have a vanilla yogurt here, I have a bong on the other side, I have water, I'm chilling in my daughter's room, we're gonna move soon. I got a lot going on. This video is I've been meaning to make this one for a little bit, and I don't know what's gonna happen over the next couple of weeks, but I'm about to move into a nice space. So I'm gonna have a lot more time and energy to make, because the space, oh man, we're moving into a house, and I don't want to go into too much detail yet, but when I get out there, I'll explain more about it. And yeah, I'm excited about that, because I'll be able to make more videos for you guys that have more effort in them, and I think they're going to be much more passionate. So yeah, I'm excited for that. But anyways, back to this education BS they put us through. So math is actually, math I should say for last, right? Okay, so Sciences, yes, gardening is a big aspect of it. Anatomy, I think, is a big aspect of it. I think that we need clear anatomical classes on it. And there's the whole in America, they make this whole big deal about lawyers and doctors. Maybe this goes across the world. I don't really know, but in America, they are kind of they're considered like the upper crust elite, and that's wrong. Everybody should be a doctor. Everybody should know how to do all these things, basic surgeries, gardening, and knowing what these plants do to us and health. And it's just we're bombarded with dog shit and told that it's great, and people believe it, or they are in the club and they don't care, and they're just like, whatever, F it, I'm just gonna be a lazy lummox and laugh at the stupid jokes that they make. I don't know what these people think. But when I knew about this stuff, it made me instantly disgusted about so much of this. I mean, how can you not be? This world is revolting in so many ways. And public school is prime example, taking children away from their parents to teach them lies and punish them. And essentially, it's worse than prison. Prison seems like it'd be no big deal compared to this. Prison, you get left alone, it seems. You don't have to do all these ridiculous hula hoops of of falsitude. Yeah, why don't you call? Maybe I'll call that the video this hula hoops of falsitude. Or not hula hoops. That's terrible. Just yeah, we're jumping through hoops or hurdles. Hoops of solitude. Hoops of falsitude. All right. But yeah. Anyways, the science, we need to learn the anatomy. You don't need to dissect an animal for that either. That was traumatic for me. I hated that. That's my point. I don't know. Weird Baphomet people that think it's okay to F with animals. I'm not. It's just not our. It's not our place. I don't agree. I don't think it's right. I don't think we should be even using surgery unless it's absolutely last resort necessary. So you're gonna heal yourself with fruit, animals. I mean, well, being kind to animals, taking care of animals, better relations with animals is gonna heal you. You're gonna learn more. You're gonna be smarter. You're gonna be less arrogant, less egotistical. All that. If you have a conscientious relationship with animals and you see them as another being out there and you want to know what their life is like or understand. I was telling my daughter, she was having trouble falling asleep earlier tonight, that that what I do sometimes is I like to think of myself as another animal and imagine what it's like for them to fall asleep at night or have their day. And it's mesmerizing. I mean, we have so much that we can create with these ideas. And I have a lot of stuff to make, music to make, all that stuff. But anyways, what were we talking about? Science. Yeah, they give you some things. I remember one of the best experiments we ever did. Not experiments. The best classes I ever had was in 6th or 7th grade. We were comparing the wings of a bat with the wings of a bird, the anatomy of such, and it's helpful to understand these things and how a mammalian avian creature flies and an avian creature flies, and they are different. They have different skeletons, and I mean, bats nurse, and bats are mammals. They're a flying mammal. It's freaking amazing. Yeah, nocturnal, very peculiar animal. And I do think vampire bats are dodgy. I don't know about those. So let's see, where else do we have? We have math is last because I think math has many applications. It's a language. There's little critiques about math, but no, not math right now. We've got to move on to, let's go with gym. So gym or PE, or they talk about physical education. We had to do these presidential fitness tests, national fitness tests. That was like little things along the way, run miles and such. And those weren't too bothersome. They weren't too frequent. I didn't feel like that was that militaristic, but it didn't have to happen. And there were some children who they genuinely didn't want to do it, and I don't think it was right to force them to do it, and they did. So yeah, I didn't like that. And then they focus on the ball sports, right? Ball, bail. So there's something to that. And there wasn't enough regular free, like I guess another that leads in gym PE gym leading into recess. There wasn't enough of that. I think we had 45 minutes on average of recess, even up through high school. Like it was not, maybe you'd have a study hall, maybe you get an hour and a half in lunch, max 2 hours of your 7 8 hour day is time off. And it's just uncomfortable. It's not how people work. You think about all the most. I just think of how people work. You want to take a little break in the afternoon some days, and you want to be able to, in general, have a more relaxed approach to how you move and groove through the day, or how you get things done. So, there needs to be a great block in the middle of the day for, if you're going to. Public school is just evil. It shouldn't exist. Children, I think parents, a collective of parents, a village, should teach children. I don't like the whole institutions idea. I don't think it works very well. If people want to seek, if people want to seek out institutions, that's fine. If you want to do that, pay for it, whatever. I don't think paying for it actually is a good idea. Money is bullshit. But if you want to seek it out, fine. But otherwise, I think everyone ought to be homeschooled. It's the right thing to do. It creates a closer bond with the. I have a way closer bond with my child than my parents have with me, and that I'm not even faulting them. I'm just saying purely because they did that. They put me in public school. They put me through the rigmarole, and it was bullshit. And I'm not saying I was special. Like, I was not among many children that also had to do the same things, it seemed. But now to look closer at it and see that there's Satanists, and there's children that were definitely capable of going to private school but didn't go because they're probably like in on these programs and these lies, and they're just taught to, like, oh, you're fine, you're gonna get like a cake job, and we're gonna make sure everything's swell for you, and just all you have to do is like pretend to go to classes. We have people like that too in public school. They wouldn't even show up. They get there for the test. You'd hear they get A's and such, and then you're like, how did that even happen? And then you'd hear that they don't even do their homework. So then it's like, it's inevitable. I knew with these people, that they had funds and were connected and were getting grades handed to them, and it was frustrating, and at points agonizing, when I was stuck there and had to do everything. And it was torture. It was torture. So obviously you'd have other language classes, which are great. English, yeah, I mean, or whatever your chosen language is, just focusing on writing and literature. Yeah, loaded with, the English is almost as bad as history. I mean, you say they're filling you with propagandist BS and stuff written by T's in the club, and it's. I want to read stuff that's not by people that's in clubs. I mean, I read enough of this stuff. It's like they fill you with some good knowledge, and then like some of it's just utter crap. Some of it's hinting at the truth. It's just annoying. Why can't I get a coherent, thorough, no clubby BS anything? I have a book I want to talk about soon. If you guys have heard about Breath by James Nestor, I'm going to talk about that soon. So, anyways, yeah, literature. I read Tale of Two Cities. I talked about To Kill a Mockingbird. Uh, All Quiet on the Western Front. They're keeping you in war minded. I mean, Holocaust books. We had those aplenty. See what I'm saying? It's just their whole fake. Got to keep you, like, whatever. Got to keep you in loosh. Got to keep you in darkness for no reason, because that's what they do. It's like Monsters Incorporated, the Pixar movie. They're telling you what they do. They do it all the time. It's just, you have to pull out of it and say, this stuff is not for me, and I can make my own stuff, or look at other texts that aren't involved with all this strange anything. And the idea really being is anything with extra polish on it, anything with a little bit of extra fluff that you see, it's just highly, you got to be careful, because that's their whole thing. They give it the little extra fluff. They hire artists. They make it look really nice, and then they insert bad seeds in there, like toxins, poisons, into your mind. So do not send your child to public school. Teach them yourselves. My daughter's 4. I already know at this juncture that she is way better off than I was at that age. And I'm so elated that we are going to have the space to carve out to garden with her and show her how the plants grow and do woodworking with her and teach her how to swim and myriad of things. There's so much to learn and do out there. And then beyond that, teach her the truth about these plays, and she'll be able to appreciate it for all of its grandiosity. That I had a shell of it because I was surrounded by people that were playing these little jokes and games and keeping me out. And it's unfair and it's BS and makes me furious at times, but I have to accept it and I have to move on and acknowledge that this it was a joke. They act like jesters and they played jokes on us, and they're going to have to face torment for doing such evil things. So I hope that they repent, and I pray that they don't succumb to peer pressure and continue on this dark path and are able to move forward into brighter pastures and make good things that enrich people's lives and aren't made to harm them and leave them out and make jokes about them. So, and then beyond that, school goes by all the draconian stuff. School, so they go along with whatever. They have to mention all the things that go on. 9/11 was a big deal. I'm sure that I saw COVID nonsense at all the schools that I was familiar with growing up, visiting not too long ago. It's just disgusting. And the lunch, oh my gosh, the dog shit food they feed you, just don't buy food at the school. Please don't. It's like don't take food on the airplane. Don't take public food. It's garbage. Make your own food, or eat as simple as you can. Processed food literally restricts your airways. It's limited greatly. I have some, but like I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying like these are obvious things, and this is what school does for you. It doesn't, unless you're living in. I think like other countries have it a bit better, quite a bit better. But in America, what I grew up in, what I see is really toxic and gross, and it's because capitalism is king, and it's a bunch of horseshit, and we have to give a little bit more effort with our children. We can't see them as just offspring. Even that, like, doesn't that sound like a weird, I guess, offspring. Offspring. It doesn't quite sound right. It sounds like the child is something that isn't wanted. Shouldn't it be like I don't know, something it just doesn't sound right to me. It sounds like a evil magicy death cult word. I don't like using that word because it's so removed. It's like parent and offspring are both rough. Pay rent, parent, and offspring. The off is a 666. You guys know that, right? Off, obvious. So it reminds me of kid. It reminds me of all these words you should not use because they reflect the death cult, and you are going along with it when you use them continuously the way they do. It's really weird, but that is the truth. So stop using them. Stop going to public school, and teach your children well, and go the straight and narrow path. So God bless you all. This is a rambly video, and I'll come at you soon with more interesting, or maybe just we'll see. I'll come at you with more stuff soon. God bless you all.